Hello, everyone. I wanted to say thank you for letting me come and present our idea to you, and I hope you're having a very lovely morning and afternoon. I'm Val Rister. I work with Student Support Services here at the University of Kentucky and have had the fortunate to work for 14 years with them. And I'm going to talk to you today about how we can basically help meet the basic needs of first-generation students through, hopefully, a collaboration between you and me and my students. So, with no further ado, I'd also like to introduce my student, who is also one of the people who actually helps basically my right arm most of the time in our office, Angie Chester. She is one of the students who actually gets a lot of the services through our office, but also can actually help answer some of the questions as to how this grant would benefit many of the other students in our office and also on our campus. So, to give you a little background for some people who don't know who Student Support Services happens to be, it is a federally funded program that works. If you've ever heard of TRIO, it's very much easy to understand. It's designed to work with college students who are either first generation, low income, and or have a documented disability. So we serve approximately 200 plus students, but we're actually funded for 160. And the reason we do that is because we have no ability to say no. To be completely honest, neither does my boss. Some initiatives that we currently do towards the basic needs of our academic support are that we provide a soup and sandwich once a month, and that's basically to help students carry over, because their meal plan, the lowest meal plan that most of our students can afford, is 1 meal a day, and it's only about 10 meals in a week, but that's actually not enough to carry 3 meals a day. So if you think about it, what the general idea is, we're supposed to have 3 meals a day. So most of my students are not getting 3 full meals a day, so they're going 2 meals without, or they're trying to figure out, how do I actually make that budget meet? So they're trying to figure out, how does this work? So if my students are not living on campus, they do not have a designated meal plan. So we provide soup and sandwich once a month out of our grant or out of actually our pockets to actually help kind of carry them over as best we can. We provide workshops on graduate school preparation and graduate school visits within a day's drive, because our grant does not allow us to do overnights. So for students who want to go anywhere outside of a basically 4-hour drive, they will have to either figure out how to do it on their own or have to do a virtual visit, which sometimes is not exactly conducive if you already have a documented disability and you want to see whether or not you can actually traverse some of the areas that you're trying to go see. So it's not always necessarily the easiest thing for them to do. Also, if you're low income, being able to go and visit some of the places that you're trying to go see, gas money is costly. Being able to get up there and get back and be able to do that is not always feasible. Some of the things that we try to do is to actually make that happen. We also provide tutoring, study skills. We do provide some school supplies, and I know that sounds funny that students in college need school supplies, but note cards are expensive, spirals are expensive, folders and so forth, copying, paper, and printing are expensive. Sometimes they can't afford an extra printer, and some of the things that we take for granted for our students do not necessarily have. We provide free printing in our office. We have some really old desktops, but they appreciate them. They come in and they use them. They may gripe about how slow the printing and the stuff is, but they come in and use them every day they can, so we have them in there. We do provide mentoring and social and cultural activities. Our cultural activities are also parent-friendly, because we also have students who are not just single, they're single parents. They're not just themselves. So we do things like, we're having the Polar Express. It's going to be December 6th, and we're going to ice cookies and have hot cocoa, and we're punching tickets, and we're doing the things that the kids did when they were in elementary school. And I know it sounds funny, but the kids that they bring with them, their children, are able to actually also participate. And the reason that is because it's really difficult for them to get to do some of the activities that they get to do on other places, because you don't have money necessarily to have childcare. So instead of having them to be unable to participate, we try to think of ways to have some cultural activities that are also family friendly and student friendly, so that they can also enjoy being able to bring their families with. We also do what's called a holiday potluck. Everybody brings in part of their culture, and we celebrate our holidays. We do not call it a specific holiday. Everybody brings in something that they would share with their family during their holiday, and we celebrate a holiday potluck, and that way everybody can share. Students who cannot afford to necessarily fix something, we fix it for them. So it's basically something, again, to create that sense of belonging and that way of making them be able to connect and have moments in their community and basically build that community on university campus that they would not normally get to have to be able to do if we weren't there. We are considered what they call their home away from home. That is the hashtag that they created. We did not create it. That is something that the students decided that we should be called. We asked, what should we call ourselves? Everybody's got these hashtags, and they said, home away from home. We sleep here, we eat here, we gripe here, we cry here, we might as well be called home away from home. And I said, okay, we can work with that. So we started putting it on all of our brochures. So the description of our grant, our first generation students are one of the largest populations entering college. A subcategory of low income is foster care and non-traditional. So coming in with minimal cultural capital. Cultural capital is that understanding of what goes on the academy, because there is what's called the implicit understanding or implicit rules. They don't always understand all of the red tape and all of the ways, the ins and outs of how to understand the university campus. So the number of first-generation students self-reported on UK's campus is around 3,038, or 17% of your undergraduate population. So that is the people who actually understand and know what that means to be first generation, and that means neither parent has finished a bachelor's degree. Number of students are self-identified as foster care are 328 of the freshmen, but overall we have approximately 1,000 students on UK's campus that qualify as having been in foster care, which means at 18 these students are being qualified as an adult. They are without insurance, they are without any basic needs being met by an adult. We do not expect our 18-year-olds normally to come to college and have to survive as a regular adult. But our students that come out of foster care are being required as by state laws to be, here you are as an adult. Tuition might be covered depending on which state they are in, or might be partially covered, but it is not always fully covered. Other things are not covered. So some of your foster care students that are on this campus are not getting all of their needs met. So they have a heavy debt that they are running with, or they may not be able to stay, or they stop out. So a $69 pair of glasses, they may be sitting in a classroom unable to see a chalkboard, or very old school. They might not be able to see the smart board. And so they can't see the smart board up there and the PowerPoints, so they are sitting there unable to figure out what's going on. So these are some of the things that we are struggling with and our students are struggling with. So furthermore, many are unable to afford those basic necessities to meet the minimum academic expectations that we have. Books. If they want to go into any of the science fields, you're looking at $150 for a book. Housing during breaks. Even if there is housing on campus, it's $25 for each night. They have to be able to pay for it. Child care for late, if there's common hour exams, some of them are at 8 o'clock at night. If you have children, daycare stops at 6 o'clock. There's nowhere to where do you put your child after 6 o'clock? So unless you have a team of people or you're fortunate enough to have family members here to watch your children, where do you put your child after 6 o'clock during your common hour exam for chemistry that's 8 to 10 o'clock at night? You cannot take your child into your chemistry exam. So these are some of the things that they come up with. Health insurance. It's not cheap. We would like to provide a resource to meet some of these needs. Obviously, we can't meet all 1,000 students' needs, but we can start to try to make some headway. That's what we are actually trying to start doing. We don't want them to miss opportunities or lag behind at no fault of their own. So our rationale is lack of basic needs creates barriers. The concentration and content due to their concern of meeting their basic needs, they don't have it. So if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the two very basic things, if they don't have those two basic needs, we cannot ask them to start doing those higher order thinking skills. If I don't have safety and I don't have my needs met, there's no way I can get anything going in the higher order thinking skills. So as students matriculate, as they need these higher degrees, if they can't go and take a GRE exam for $160, or they can't apply to go take their MCAT for $360, or they can't go take their GMAT, or they can't even get to those places, there's no even way for them to actually to finish up with what they've got. So they may have gotten their psychology degree, but they can't take the next step. So being able to provide them at least the opportunity to take the exam to get to the next step and help them find the fellowships and so forth. So through this grant, the SSS office would like to provide first-generation students opportunities, both financial and experiential, that are necessary for their continued academic growth and their well-being. So to quote Madeline at St. Amour in Inside Higher Education just this past September, affordable, accessible education for low-income and middle-income students. This results in some students taking out large loans, working long hours while attending school and facing difficulty, covering basic needs such as food, all of which can lead to poor outcomes for the students. Other students opt for a less expensive college with fewer supports, or they forego college altogether in order to avoid the debt or the issues surrounding attending. A lot of our students will do what's called stop out, or they will also do, basically, they drop out, not because they don't have the academic prowess, not because they don't have the desire. They actually do it because they don't have the affordability. And that's basically what I've been talking to you about there. Anybody have any questions for me or for Miss Angie? Yes, ma'am.
How would you select the recipients of the different categories that you're asking for?
Actually, when we work with our students, we do what's called a support plan and basic, and we do a financial need assessment with them. Oh, that would probably be helpful if I actually talked so all of you could hear. We do a financial needs assessment with them, and we look to see also what's on their basic needs, who still has a heavy need that's still left over. So when we look at our students and we see that they have zero need that's still left on what it may be their bill or whatever there's left over, that's one of the ways that we can actually notice that somebody has a heavy need that's still left. We can work with them on trying to meet that, but also if students are also in foster care, we already know that that need is not being met. So we identify them early on by our how we identify them in our system. And when we're kind of like our own filing system, we know who's low income, because our grant has to be 2/3 first gen, 1/3 of that has to be low income, and so they all usually fall under, foster care usually falls under the first gen low income. So we would actually be looking at it that way and trying to figure out who would actually be best served with that. So it's a lot of the application process and our support plan when we're actually working with them. We do a lot of individual, what's called intrusive intervention with them. Anybody else have questions? Don't worry, just fire away.
What's the Graduate Professional Conference?
Graduate and Professional Conference is where we would take students to, if we're looking at students who are wanting to go to law school or wanting to go to, like yesterday I took a bunch of students to Eastern Kentucky University to look at, they had a graduate school blitz, and they had their professors and so forth there talking about what it takes to get into their graduate school admissions, what kinds of things they're looking for in their biographical statements and their personal statements, their financial fellowships, and so forth. So I had taken about 10 students down there to listen to another university's version of what's going to be expected. So sometimes there are some that are being specifically done for law school and medical school and so forth that are not local, but are being done that are nationwide. So they can hear from schools from all over the nation that we could be able to take them to. And then I can take more than 10 students because I can only put about 10 in a van. So if I could be able to do that, then that would be something that would behoove some of them that I can't get them to currently.
So what are some of the resources, without getting into specifics, that you've been able to access through the center?
So my first semester here, I didn't know anybody. I had just left a bad personal situation. I was starting all over with me and my 2 kids. And SSS gave me a peer mentor who is also a parent, so I was able to make that connection, and we're still friends, by the way. I was able to use the tutoring for Calc 1 and some of the basic science classes because it had been a long time since I had been in school. I transferred in with an associate's degree that was a couple years old. I have been a tutor. I wanted to give back to the program, so I have also contributed to providing services. I've taken advantage of the financial counseling and the how to write a resume and how to do an interview. And I have brought my children to the Easter egg hunt and the Halloween events. So it really does provide you with that sense of connection that is necessary for students to retain and then graduate successfully. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Anybody else? Well, if you have no more questions, because we were so thorough in answering everything, because we were so proficient, I want to say again, thank you for letting us come and talk to you. It's been very wonderful to present and talk about our program because a lot of people don't have any idea that we're on the campus. So it's really nice to be able to share what we do and to let other people know how wonderful things are. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have non-monetary ways that we as a group possibly could help with, like a food bank drive or, you know,
Oh.
any of that kind of stuff that you could just publish to us?
Yes. Yes, I can. And can I send it to Lisa? Is that a good way to send ways that you all, yes, we have tremendous ways that you all can be very beneficial and very helpful and collaborate with us tremendously. It does not have to always be monetary. We collaborate with a number of places throughout, actually, the Lexington community that do things for us and help us that are not monetary. I appreciate that thought wholeheartedly. Thank you. And thank you again for letting us come. Do I need to shut anything off, or are you all okay?